The purpose of this forum tonight is simple. First, we wish to provide voters with an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates who are seeking to serve as mayor. Second, to allow voters to understand the candidates' priorities and platforms. And last, to evaluate their vision for the future of our community. It is also an opportunity for the candidates to hear directly from you, the residents and the voters of Athens-Clarke County on the issues that matter most. From housing to public safety, to the health and success of women, children, and families. Tonight should provide an understanding of each candidate's vision and action steps for Athens' future. Athens-Clarke County, we thank you for being here, not just as an observer, but as a participant in the most powerful force in American democracy, an engaged local community. Tonight at this mayoral town hall, we will practice democracy together. That means respectful disagreement, serious dialogue, and accountability grounded in truth. Our rules for engagement to ensure fairness between the candidates. 1, each candidate will receive equal speaking time. 2, time limits will be strictly enforced and articulated before each section. 3, there will be no interruptions or crosstalk between candidates. 4, audience members are asked to hold applause and verbal gestures until the conclusion of each segment. And finally, 5th, written audience questions must be questions and not speeches. Non-question submissions will not be read during the live audience section of the town hall. To make this forum as smooth as possible, please silence all phones. I already checked mine. Refrain from getting up from your seat unless it's an emergency, and limit all additional side conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, one of these 2 men will be the future mayor of Athens-Clarke County. So, with expectations set for tonight's candidates, and with the Athens community ready to hear vision and clarity from the future mayor, let's begin. We will now commence with part 1 of our town hall, which is the candidate opening statements and moderator questions. First, let's hear the opening statements from each candidate. Gentlemen, you will be allotted 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the public. Mr. Denson, we will start with you first, and then next will be Mr. Fisher. Mr. Denson, 2 minutes begin.
There we go. All right, yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. I am Tim Denson, and I'm running for mayor of Athens-Clarke County. And I'm running for mayor first and foremost because we need to have an Athens that works for everyone and that is affordable for everyone. Athens, like a lot of the United States and a lot of the world now, has become extremely unaffordable. And it's pushing out a lot of working class people here in our community. So I want to first and foremost focus on reducing housing costs for both renters and homeowners alike. I want to make sure that that working class families can have access to childcare so that those families can be able to take advantage of education opportunities and job opportunities. And the last big part of my platform is to reduce homelessness here in Athens-Clarke County. Something that I work in that field every single week, working to help unhoused people get into housing and to be able to get the resources that they need to remove the barriers that created the homelessness in the first place. Athens has treated me amazingly well. I moved here in 2004. I was son of the preachers down in South Florida, and we moved around a lot. I never really had a hometown until I came here to Athens. And I came here for the music scene back in 2004 and met my amazing wife, who raised my daughter here, and just built an amazing family in this amazing community that has taken care of me so much during some hard times. And I just want to make sure that everybody else here in Athens-Clarke County has that same opportunity to be treated so well here in this community and to have that same opportunity to build an amazing life. I look forward to talking more about my platform and what I see as my vision for Athens-Clarke County here over the next hour and a half with y'all. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here today. And I really appreciate the Deltas and Jimmy Lee for putting this forum on. I am Dexter Fisher, President, Commissioner of District 5, also Mayor Pro Tem. Been in this community for 38 years. Moved here in 1988 for graduate school and decided to stay. So this has been my home, raised 3 children here, and my wife taught in the Clarke County School District. Spent 30 plus years at the University of Georgia, 3 years with the Clarke County School District, and all over in leadership positions. For me, and what I'm running on, it is about affordability, but also about accountability, about transparency. Also, it's about public safety, how we keep our communities safe. It's also about the opportunity that we need to be able to give our young people in this community. One of the things I ran 4 years ago, we talked about youth development. We need to make sure that our young people in this community have an opportunity. That's why we opened up 4 community centers in our housing authority to make sure that those young people have access to homework, other things that they need to help them along the way. So for me, I'm gonna continue that process because I think it's important for our young people to thrive in this community. Also, I think about our elderly population. You know, we got a lot of elderly people in our population. How do we get them housed? And one of the things that we've done right now, we get ready to open up gonna build a new 55 and year older homes for the elderly. My church purchased 72 acres of land to do the same thing. So affordability is important. But we gotta have accountability, make sure we do it right, we gotta have transparent. That's all I have heard, that our residents do not trust us. I want to bring trust back in our government. Tonight, I hope we have that conversation. And you all should expect us to deliver. And we have not always delivered, but God will deliver for you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for your opening statements and remarks. We will now move on to the question and answer portion of tonight's forum, where you both will have 2 minutes each per question to share your plans, priorities, and visions for Athens-Clarke County.
Thank you, gentlemen. We will state the question and theme of each question as we go. Mr. Fisher, we will start with you for this first question. And it is centered around women in leadership. Across the country, many women feel their voices, expertise, and autonomy are being increasingly dismissed or erased in political and public life. In practical terms, not symbolic, how would your administration ensure women are represented, protected, and meaningfully included in leadership and decision-making in Athens-Clarke County?
Great question. I spent most of my career in facilities. And as you know, facilities was predominantly dominated by white males. I was the first African-American director for our facility. And one thing that I did, I'm very, very proud of, we had more women and more people of color in leadership roles. When I got there, and I don't want to embarrass her, but one of them sitting right in front of me, who was my assistant director. But I always made sure that we had women in leadership roles, make sure they had the opportunity, make sure they had the schooling, make sure they had all the resources that they need to be successful. And I'm very proud of my record. And I tell people that, I talk about that on campaign, how many women leaders that I had and I was a typical organization. Same thing with school district. You know, we made sure that we had a diverse leadership team that looked like people that was working for them, and that was important. And so, next mayor, I'll do the same thing. I think it's important. Right now, we got opportunity in our county manager's office. Right now, he's hiring people, and I'm really looking at that. And I hope he bring in some women leadership. Now, we do have an interim female in that slot right now, but I'm looking at how he's going to hire and what it's going to look like. But in government, our leadership should reflect our community, and I will ensure that will happen. I've been the champion of that, so this is not just start with me. I've been the champion of that for all my career, and I will continue to do that as we move forward. But it's important to have leadership, especially women leadership and people of color. I think that's important. We got to have a balance, and I like that balance. And I'd like to have that opportunity to continue the work that I've done in the past. So I'm proud of my record as a director and what I brought to the table when it came to people working in my particular department and in my administration. And we'll continue that as the next mayor of Athens.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Denson?
Yes, thank you for the question. And yeah, I mean, obviously I agree. We need to have diverse representation and leadership, especially putting women and women's voices in the forefront, make sure that is part of our local government. Right now, I think we do have a little bit of a lack, especially in our constitutional, our charter officers right now, that we don't have a permanent female person. And I think that that's something that needs to be remedied. And I hope that we will have some strong female candidates that we can put into that. But for some specific things that we can do, so one of the things whenever I was on the commission that a number of us pushed for on the commission was to do a disparity study so that we could actually research and see if we had historic discrimination happening where we were not getting contracts and purchasing happening through women and minority owned businesses. And not many communities have been taking the step, but we went ahead and took that step and had this disparity study come through, and not a big surprise. The disparity study came back and showed that we have historically been discriminating against women, minority-owned businesses when it comes to our public spending. Same thing with the school district. Once I got on the school board, we also voted to put a disparity study in place for that one also. And so now that we have had those studies come through and had those results be shown, we are now legally allowed as a local government to take explicit steps towards trying to ensure that some of our public dollars are going towards women and minority owned businesses and contractors. We started taking some small steps on trying to do like trainings on how to be able to fill out those contracts and purchasing, but we need to go a lot further to actually make up for that historic injustice that we've had. And, you know, I just believe it's definitely I think a man that's behind like a bunch of strong women. My mother, I've always tried to surround myself with my campaign. One of my campaign managers, Daria, has been a leading.
That is time, Mr. Denson. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Question number 2, Athens, is centered around housing. And Mr. Denson, we will start with you this time. Athens has become increasingly unaffordable for the working class resident, including families that have lived here for generations. What responsibility does local government have to prevent displacement, and where should the balance be between growth, development, and protecting existing communities? Mr. Denson.
Yes, as I said in my opening statement, this is one of the most important things for me. And I think one of the most important things for our community is that housing unaffordability. And it happened. We're in a housing crisis for a myriad of reasons. And therefore, it's going to take a myriad of solutions for us to really fix this. That's why I'm trying to push a bunch of different ideas. We have our inclusionary housing ordinance that I want to see us expand, which means that whenever a developer comes through to build something out, they have the percentage of those units to make them affordable, or the money that would cost to build those into our affordable housing fund that we could then utilize to build social affordable housing, subsidized housing here. Another big part, and something I'm very proud of when I was on the commission, was championing the eviction prevention program that we put in place, and that kept over 800 families in their homes instead of being evicted. And you know, another issue, and one of the best ways to combat homelessness is to make sure that people never become homeless in the first place. And that's one of the reasons that eviction prevention program, if I am mayor, will become a permanent part of our budget because it's so effective. And another thing we're going to have to do, though, is I am supportive of the suggested floating local option sales tax, which would reduce the millage rate by 5 mils for everyone in the entire community, which would impact renters and homeowners alike, and replace it with a 1 cent sales tax that can help be burdened by tourists that come to town, people that come to the football game, students and stuff like that. So we'd actually see a net savings happen for renters and homeowners with their property taxes, and therefore for renters, their rent come down. And the last big part of this is that we have to revisit our zoning. Our zoning has not been revisited for nearly 25 years. And because of that, we have a lot of rules that aren't working, and they really make it available to build 2 types of housing: single family housing, which is important, we need that, but it's also kind of one of the most expensive types of housing, and then student high rises. We need that missing middle that has density that's going to.
And that is time, Mr. Denson. Thank you so much. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. And again, I think our housing theme in the community is dire. And I think some of the things that we need to really take a look at, and we talk about our zoning, we talk about our infrastructure and where that housing is going to go in. And I guess y'all probably telling me saying this, but we're the smallest geographical county in the state of Georgia, 159 counties. So we got to figure out what we're gonna do with this building and what is gonna take place. Unfortunately, we have gentrified our African American community, where we put in more student housing and not enough housing for single family. And I don't want to see that. We need to change that. What I understand is what we got to do is really take a good look at what we can build at. I've done many meet and greets, and nobody don't want more density. And that's one me and my opponent. We differ. He's suggesting that we do more density in his neighborhood. Every time we talk about more density, the neighbors come out, they don't want that. So now we got to come up with another plan how we're going to do it. We do have to work with our developers and talk with them how we can get them tax incentives and help them build more affordable housing. But at the same time, I always talk about the missing middle. And that missing middle is our school teacher, our firefighter, our police officer, people that work in plant. What do we do for those folks? That's the housing that we need to get also. And we don't talk a whole lot about that. We got the housing authority. We got we also have land trusts. And then we have Habitat. They really help us in those neighborhood people with low income housing. But what about those young professionals that don't have those type of housing? We got to sit down and look at some of the land that we own to build on. He'll build those tax incentives so we can get some of those houses built. But it's going to be a challenge. This is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And I think we need to really think about that. When we talk about housing, it is important. And that is a crisis that we're having all around this country. But for me, I want to make sure that we talk about it available and with my colleagues on the commission.
Thank you so much.
You want to be?
We appreciate that. So question 3 is centered around young people and engagement, and it does kind of piggyback off of question number 2. Mr. Fisher, we will start with you. Many young people in Athens feel priced out, politically unheard, or uncertain about their future here. What would you do to convince the next generation that Athens is still a city worth investing their lives in?
Well, very good question. And, in mine, y'all heard me talk about that in my open statement. I think we really need to invest in our young people. And some folks have given up on our young people, but I never will. One thing I take pride in, every opportunity that I get, I go talk to young people and talk about opportunities, talk about successes and what that looks like. Especially when those young men and young women look like me, I really want to make sure they understand that they can succeed, especially from the background that I came from and what I had to endure growing up as a boy. So I think it's important that we invest in those young people, but especially also our young professionals. We need to make sure there are opportunities here for them to grow. And I think we don't offer that enough. One of the things I'm going to do, especially when it comes to our middle schoolers and our high school, I'm going to do a team summit and get all our young people to the community. Because too many times, adults try to tell kids what they want. We need to listen to them. And I want to have their voices. I want to know, tell us what we need to do, not only as a government, but as a community. What can we do to make your life better? What resources do you need in order for you to succeed? So that's one of the first things I'll do. And I'm talking about my first 100 days where we're going to hit the ground running. It's going to be so critical, my first 100 days, to really get a gauge in this community for you all to tell us, first of all, how strategic plan is going to be built and what needs to happen. Every commissioner will be with me when we go to those meetings. We're going to get all to this. We're going to really have no voice. Again, a lot of times, politicians think that we know what's better instead of you all telling us what's better for you all. So I'm going to make a promise to y'all. I don't do a whole lot of promises, but whenever we get out of those meetings, we're going to put that pen to paper and we're going to make those things work. And I've said this, if within 4 years that we don't achieve our strategic plan we talk, I won't run again. I won't run for another term. That's how confident that I am that I can get the job done, engage our community, and make sure we start making progress.
You're a great job, PC. Mr. Vincent.
Yes, thank you. And honestly, what I've heard on being on the school board right now and meeting with students and campaigning and talking to students and going to UGA and talking to students there, young people are very concerned, rightfully so, for the direction that this country, this world, and this community is going in for a number of reasons. We are kind of leaving these young generations with an economy that's a dumpster fire, with an environment and a world that is literally on fire, and that we're not taking care of when it comes to the environment, that healthcare costs are unreachable. And a lot of these kids wonder, like, well, how am I going to pay for my health insurance? When should I come off my parents' health insurance? We have failed these young generations, and we're continuing to fail. And that's one of the reasons I've really surrounded myself to listen to young people, especially the UGA students stuff, because they're concerned, they're paying attention. And I want to make sure that we are kind of following that lead and setting up a world that is good for them and good for my 9-year-old daughter. I'm very concerned about this. So what some of those things that I would like us to do is, one of them I'm talking about is the Mayor's Living Wage Award, so that we can make sure that more jobs here are paying a living wage. Here in Georgia, we can't force employers to pay a living wage, but we can incentivize it. And one of the things I want to do is just creating this Mayor's Living Wage Award, so that we'll be advertising, recording, business can come and present. We pay every single one of our employees a living wage here, and they can get that honor, that certificate, and we will help market those businesses that pay that living wage, incentivizing them to do better and to pay those wages. And continuing to help fund the Clarke County School District's after-school programs. We have a great partnership between the county and the school district, paying for after-school sports programs. And I want to, again, make that part of the permanent budget moving forward, because I think it's a great partnership. Childcare, again, talking about the childcare subsidy program I want to have. So many children, the ones, a lot of times you can see what some of
Thank you,
the,
sir. That is 2 minutes.
I'm going to talk a little more about this. I'll squeeze it in somewhere.
Thank you so much. Athens, we're going to do a little shift now because question 4 is about the political climate. Mr. Denson, we will start with you this time, and of course, Mr. Fisher. Nationally, many Americans are concerned about the growing authoritarian rhetoric, political extremism, and the declining trust in democratic institutions. What role should a mayor play in defending democratic values, civil discourse, and the community trust at the local level? Mr. Denson.
I think exactly that. I think it is the role of the mayor to be, the mayor is the spokesperson for this community. And I think it does come down to us being willing to protect this community when it comes to our democracy, ensuring that our Board of Elections office has the funding, the resources that we can ensure that we have not just operational elections, but robust elections that are encouraging democracy and are encouraging people to interact with democracy. And I believe that we need to take a strong stand against the authoritarianism that we are seeing happen. It's so easy for us to say, well, this is the local government. But we have seen local governments all across this nation be absolutely hammered by this federal authoritarian government. They do come for these local governments. And we need to have a local government and a mayor who's going to stand up for us and not roll over and just say there's nothing we can do. If I am elected mayor, when it comes to ICE and other authoritarian pressures, I will do everything I legally can to get to stop them from coming here and protect the people of Athens, Georgia. And I even did that role on the school board, pushing. So we pushed the policy saying that we are not going to allow ICE to come into our schools. We're going to check any of the kind of subpoenas that they have. We're not going to allow them to come to our school boards. We're not going to allow them to create our schools to be fearful places that families and students don't want to come into. And the same thing should be said of all of our government offices, and of course, definitely also our elections. There is a role we can play. We have to play it. This is we're at the precipice right here. I think we all know this. I think we feel this every single day when we wake up. There are some scary things happening right here. And where we can change it for the better is starting right here on the local, in our own community.
Thank you so much. Mr. Denson, Mr. Fisher.
So, you're right. It's not only the dumpster fire nationally. Now the other word I should not use, but I'm not gonna use it. But anyway, it's an issue. Ain't no question about it. For me, I want to make sure, first of all, that this community is protected. Folks coming in and trying to take over our community. I will not stand for that. I will stand for Athens always. We got to make sure that we do everything locally. First of all, take care of the people here. I get it on the national level, even on the state level. But we should not be so consumed with going on the federal level to forget about what we need to take care of home. And home is always should be number one. As your mayor, I will assure that we do that. I will assure that our children are protected. I will assure that our elderly are protected. And I will assure that the overall community is protected. Because for me, having grown up in the sections, I've seen this movie before. I knew what it was like to go out when my mom was knocking on doors after the voting rights bill passed in 1965 and her life getting threatened because she was trying to get people ready. So I understand that. And I got life experience with that. So I understand what that means. I understand about democracy, but I also understand you and myself, though, the way we handle all this, we gotta go and vote. You gotta go to the polls and vote. Now, I was real disappointed on the 25,000 people voting for the mayor. We need to exercise our legal right to vote. For me, 20 people died. I've been voting since I was 18 years old, 66 years old now. And I've been voting ever since. So we got to make sure that we go to the polls, exercise our right to vote. And some of these things will change because we're right. Sometimes we just get so comfortable in our space and then things start happening around us and we're like, darn, what happened? We need to ask this question, why 10% of African-American men voted for Trump? Why is that? So again, I think it's important that we protect.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fisher. That is time.
Just a gentle reminder, please hold all applause until after the program is done. I know this is a very passionate topic and we all feel strongly about it. All right, so question number 5, we're going to shift on to economic development and values. Mr. Fisher, we're going to start with you, and then we will be followed by Mr. Goodson. Athens faces increasing pressure from large-scale development and outside investments. When economic opportunity conflicts with environmental protection, neighborhood preservation, or quality of life, what values should guide your decision-making?
So anytime we're looking at talking about economic development, of course, I was on the candidate when we were running, we're talking about economic development. We need to look at clean industry when we bring in companies in this particular community. For example, Pfizer, biotech company, for $1,700, $65,000 a year starting wages. Those are the type of industry that we need to be recruiting. You know, we're brewery. You know, we're doing a lot of brewery in this community. We're a music town. We're a tourist attraction. So a lot of different industries have an interest in coming here. We got a world-class university. We got a great technical school. And I always say, in our K through 12, we got to do better. We will do better. Because like I said, I'm never going to throw our K through 12 under the bus. My wife taught for 30 years. I spent 3 years working in that school system. There's some great teachers, great administrators, and parents that involve my children educating. But we got to do better. I'm going to challenge our community, go into these schools and mentor some of these young people. Go read a book. Because I think that's what it's going to take. But on the economic development side, we got to make sure that we attract industry, but we got to make sure that our young people and other people in our residents are ready to take on that job with job training. If I'm going to invest money, I'm going to invest money in job training and get people ready to go to work. But that's the quickest way to get people out of homelessness and get them into housing. So those type of things that I'm going to look at from an economic standpoint, bringing in more clean, what I call clean industry. And we got to get us an airline. And somebody put some rock at me about an airline. Sorry, had one in 2014. But that spurs economic development. 1,600 people a day go from here to Atlanta or Greenville to get the plane. We need to make sure that we can use those resources in our community, that those folks who want to fly, they can go out to BNF and fly out of this community. So for me, economic development probably job, we want to get jobs and get people into this community.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Goodson?
Yeah, I think that it's a good question. We have to do that balance. We cannot, the mayor and those who are on our economic development board and such, we have to make sure that whenever we are negotiating, working with businesses, trying to bring businesses here, we're doing it for the benefit of the community and not necessarily just the benefit of those corporations who want to come here. And so, I want to make sure that if we are negotiating, we are giving tax breaks to the people that come here. I want to make sure those tax breaks are going towards living wage paying jobs that have good benefits and healthcare, jobs and companies that really care about Athens and are going to take care of Athens when it comes to the environment, when it comes to our employees, when it comes to our community. And that's one of the reasons that I have come out very strongly against us having any data centers here in Athens, Georgia. Because that's one of those big economic booms that we see happening all over the place. But when I look at it, I'm thinking, what is the benefit for Athenians? What's the benefit for Athens? And honestly, I don't see it. That's an industry that creates very few jobs, yet uses up tons of fresh water, tons of electricity, and tons of land. 3 things that we don't have enough to be able to just throw away to a corporation. So I think we need to be really smart about that, about who we're trying to lure here and who we're trying to bring here. And again, another thing is just making sure that we are encouraging living wage jobs to be happening here too. And honestly, I want us to be thinking, we've heard so much about trickle down economics, right? That's going to lift all boats. It's going to come down from the top. What about some trickle up economics? Hey, if all tides raise all boats, then let's start from the bottom up. Then I'll raise all the boats. And that's why when it comes to something like transportation, sure, I'm fine with us getting an airline here again, but I'm not going to prioritize us trying to get an airline that's going to have 6 riders over us having a public transit system that's free and supports workers that has 2.1 million riders. That's where I want to be focusing on doing economic benefit for those folks, and those benefits will trickle up.
Thank you so much. As a quick reminder, Athens, we are preparing for our live questions from the audience. If you have an index card, please raise it in the air as the ushers will bring these questions to us. Thank you so much.
All right, and we have time for, I think, about 2 more moderated questions before we move on to our next segment. So I will ask one of the harder hitting questions, and again, please hold applause and all sentiments until afterwards. And a general reminder, I'm an Oconee resident, so I don't have the constitutional vested interest, so please don't hate me when I ask you this question. All right, what is the appropriate role of local Athens-Clarke County government in federal immigration and customs enforcement? And where should the line be drawn between cooperation and resistance? And Mr. Denson, we will start with you first.
Thank you. I think the role is to protect the people here of Athens. And that does mean protect people who are here peacefully, who are part of our community. It also means protecting that we're keeping, dangerous folks out of our community too. But when it comes to what we've seen happening with ICE immigration enforcement, has been a fearful attack on many peaceful, good people, including here in our Athens area. We haven't had a lot of run-ins here in Athens-Clarke County, but surrounding counties have had incidents. And so I think where that line comes down is that I want to do everything legally possible to make sure that we are not allowing ICE to come in here and use any of our resources, and that Athens-Clarke County resources and funding is in no way benefiting or helping ICE terrorize our community. Because honestly, it doesn't even work towards what their end goal is. What ICE has done is actually created the immigrant undocumented communities become fearful of actually engaging with public safety. So when there is a crime going on, when there is something unsafe in their community, they're scared to actually go to law enforcement because they don't know what might happen. So it's actually making our community less safe in the tactics that they're using. And so I will follow suit of what other communities have done, including ones here in Georgia, like Social Circle Atlanta, and take steps to limit where ICE can't use our resources, ICE can't use our facilities, and ICE can't use our personnel.
All right, so Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. And Tim and I, we was on the radio on Monday, and we had the same question for the came up. And for me, and I really feel this is a problem. This is a problem I got with ICE. And I talked with our chief and our sheriff is here. ICE do not contact our local officials when they come to town. And that's a problem for me. Every law enforcement agency, definitely issue in our community, they contact our local authority. ICE doesn't do that, and that's a problem for me. We should not allow any entity that comes in and just take over and really terrorize our community. We need to be mindful of that, and we need to make sure that we protect all our residents here regardless. Because again, for me, and again, I've seen this movie before. When you start terrorizing the community, they start retreating, and when actual crimes do happen, they're not going to report that crime. So we need to make sure that we're protecting all our community, all the residents that live here, because it's important for me that when people move here or even visit, that they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they know that we as a community are going to wrap our arms around them, make sure that we try to protect them. That's why I really try to work with our sheriff's department, with our police department, and make sure that when they engage with our immigrant community, they do it with respect. And they don't take for granted that they here illegally. So, even when sometimes when we're doing traffic stop, we need to make sure that they're not doing traffic stop in the areas that they're living in. So I'm always mindful with our law enforcement locally about that. then when other outside agencies come in and try to take over, that's not something that we should allow as a government. And I will fight with them with that, make sure that that doesn't happen. And we're also with my fellow colleagues on the commission that we should our residents are safe.
Thank you so much. And our last moderated question is about leadership and stewardship. Explain to the audience, to us, your first 100 days if you were elected mayor.
And I've said that since I've been on this campaign. My first 100 days is, first of all, I bring those 25 years of leadership experience. I know how to connect the dots with people. I know how to bring people together. You don't leave a 500 organization and not know how to lead those folks. That's why it's so important to me when we hire more women and more people of color in those leadership positions. And that was intentional on my part. But my leadership in my first 100 days is, I mentioned it earlier, we're going to be out in the community. We're going to be asking you all the questions. And I hope you all ask us the hard questions. I think it's important. We're not going to sit down in City Hall and just sit there and not do anything. I'm going to be very active. Y'all going to know who your mayor is. A lot of times, when I go talk to young people sometimes, I ask them, do you know who the mayor of Athens is? Some of them can't answer that question. They're going to know that Dexter Fisher is the mayor of Athens. Because I'm going to be out there in those streets, talk to those young people, talk to our residents there and say, hey, tell us what you want. And that's what leadership do. Leadership don't sit down. Leadership goes out. Set the example. And I told all these folks that have been running for commissioner, put your running shoes on. If you ran for commissioner, just, get a title, you don't need to be a part of this government because we're going to be transparent, we're going to be accountable, and we're going to show up. One thing that I did when I ran 4 years ago, when I got calls from people in District 5, I always said I would call me back for 48 hours. Unless I was on vacation or somewhere else. I always try to make sure I call folks back. Because I think you all expect that from us. You all hire us. You all vote for us. So that's the type of mayor I would be. I would be aggressive. I'll be on the streets, boots on the ground. That's what we're going to do. And if my fellow commissioners don't do that, I'm going to call them out. If they don't show up for meetings, I'm going to call them out. We got some commissioners, they don't show up for meetings. In my administration, you better show up. But I expect for you to be there because people elected you to show up, especially when we do our boards.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Appreciate it. Mr. Denson, your first 100 days.
Yes, thank you. My first 100 days, honestly, I'll be starting before that. And if we're elected, whoever's going to be winning this on here in mid-June, we're going to have 6 months before we actually take office in January of next year. So I want to be using that time, just like I'll be using the first 100 days, starting to have regular town halls all around the community, just like I did as a commissioner. As a commissioner, I said I was going to have regular town halls, and I had over 40 town halls while I was a commissioner of my 4 years serving there. So I'll do the same thing as mayor, meeting people where they are at, not expecting people to have to come to City Hall, sit through a 4-hour business meeting to be able to give some public comment. No, we should be going to where they're at, have open conversations with people, be interacting with those folks and getting to know them, and get in their neighborhoods, in their communities too. I think that's really important. At the same time, I want to open up open office hours in City Hall. So I'll have regular times that I will be there at City Hall and people can show up unannounced and we will sit down and we'll talk about whatever issues or concerns they have. Another important thing is that I'll be scheduling to have meetings with every single commissioner so that I can understand better what their priorities are for their constituents and ways that we can try to get those goals put in place by working together as a full mayor and commission. And also, of course, setting up those other important meetings with other stakeholders, our hospitals, our school board, our school district, Chamber of Commerce, the University of Georgia, some of the major business owners, making sure that we are all working together and really using those 6 months, like I said, and those first 100 days so that we can hit the ground running to start doing what's best here for Athens-Clarke County.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, now we're going to move to our second half of this town hall, which is the live audience questions. We have roughly around 4 to 5 questions where you both will get 2 minutes apiece to respond. We will also try to select questions that haven't been answered and asked in previous forums. Question number 1, and we will start with you, Mr. Denson. In Athens, I'm going to read this with the passion that it has been written with. Okay? Should the University of Georgia continue to pay no property taxes when the working class and middle class homeowners are paying increasingly higher property taxes? Mr. Denson.
So I'll answer this first and foremost, in my opinion. In my opinion, no, that should not continue on. Then I'm also going to answer this with what is legally possible right now. And that is that the University of Georgia is a state entity that within the state constitution, it states does not have to pay any taxes. So for us to get them to put in more financial help, because right now, all they pay right now is stormwater fees. And I talked to folks about how much on staff, they pay about $220,000 a year in stormwater fees. So that's how much revenue that we're getting. So I want to find creative ways that we can be getting them to help out. One of the things was with our public transit system. They used to help report some of their rides and funds kind of helped buoy both transit systems, but that stopped happening. And I would really like to explore ways that we can make sure that we're working better together with our transit system, since they have a fare free public transit system, award winning, as does the Athens Transit being an award winning fare free public transit system. Also, something I've talked about is when it does come to student housing, we got to find a way for University of Georgia to take and shoulder more of that burden. Right now, they actually only have enough dorms to house about 18% of the undergrads that go here to University of Georgia, meaning the rest of those folks are having to find housing out in the regular community and competing with us for housing, which drives up housing costs because it takes away some of the supply. So I want to find ways that we can work with them so that we can make sure that we are solving the student housing problem together, because a lot of that obviously is happening because of the university. Now, listen, I don't want to be antagonistic against the university. I do love the University of Georgia. Athens would not be what it is without UGA, and UGA would not be what it is without Athens. But we have to find a way to work better together and to heal some of these wounds that we've had, these town and gown wounds over the years. And there's no reason for us to be acting so bitter and vitriolic about it. Because again, our end is tied together. So we have to work together.
Thank you so much, Mr. Denson. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. Very good question. And yes, constitutionally, they don't pay taxes. They do stormwater. And one of the things what they were doing over we was paying for a bus, but it's keeping in $1 million a year for transportation. Now, one thing I've already started, and this is my take. Sometimes people want to start at the top, but what I've done is talk with these deans and department heads. Matter of fact, I got a relationship with schools. So my undergraduate degree is in social work. A lot of people don't know that. But I talked to the dean of school of social work. Some of those departments, they are willing to kick in dollars to help our community. When I was on the school board, one of the things that happened when we went through COVID, a lot of our children did not have access to the internet. The athletic director reached out to me and said, what can we do? I said, our kids need internet connection. Within 2 weeks, they raised over $200,000. Every kid in this community had access to the internet. So those are the type of relationships that I know I got, that I built. And in the past, because UGA do not work with the county, because Mr. Denson, when he was on the commission, they antagonized them. They talked about them. That's not what we do. We don't talk about our neighbors. That's not what we do. You build relationships. You talk with them. We may have disagreements, but how can we come to the middle and have some understanding how we can move this community forward? And that's what I bring to the table. I know how to partner. I know how to bridge the gap with that. And from day one, once I'm your mayor, I'll have a relationship with UGA. Because I've been there, done that. I sit across the table from those folks. I understand what needs to happen from this community, from their perspective, how we can work together. So I'm gonna make that happen. We can make that happen, but there are ways that we can do stuff that people don't even think about when it comes to financing from the University of Georgia. So that's some things that we're gonna do, and I'm planning on doing, and I've already started this conversation.
Thank you.
I will take a moment to compliment the citizens in the Athens-Clarke County on their penmanship. Very good. So this is a question centered around traffic and just getting around town. And I might paraphrase a little bit, so please bear with me. Athens is growing rapidly. Traffic has increased and demand for services will continue to escalate. What are your plans if you're elected to manage and control growth in the county, specifically traffic control? And I believe we will start with you, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, and that's tough. How we do our traffic in this community. We have to work with GDOT, along some of the state roads, and then our own county roads. when you're looking at growth, and that's one of the things, that's why I said, when you start talking about more density and putting all this stuff, one of the things we always hear from our residents is, right, you might add more traffic into our neighborhood. So, because these roads were built so many years ago, and I think what happened, and again, I've been here 38 years. I think our past elected officials, the growth caught up with them and we were prepared. When I moved here with 75,000 people, almost close to 140,000. UJ was 25,000, 40,000 students. So what we got to do is come back to the table and look at our traffic and what that looks like. And we're going to start probably doing some traffic study. And every time we do a new build, we do look at the traffic patterns and how many cars are coming through that. But as more and more students come here and more people move here, and another thing I talked to UJ about, let's limit freshmen bringing cars to this community. And we're having those conversations right now. If you got that many freshmen coming to town, let's limit them because they got to stay on campus. So they can get around with our bus system. They go downtown so they can get around. So those are some of the things we do. We can do more bike paths, more walking paths. So those are some of the things we got to look at. Maybe cut down the number of cars that we have. But our traffic in this little community that we got is difficult when you got state roads and you got county roads. So we're going to have to really take a hard look at that. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. But as more people come in, we got to either look at our public transit, look at more bike lanes, more walkable areas. So those are the type of things that have to happen in order for us to get around here in Athens. And I think we just have to really take a hard look and really get some smart people. That's why I say it's so important to bring UGA to the table. They got folks who know how to help us do that. I think we need to utilize that. I got you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. We are,
Mr. Dutson, your turn.
Thank you. And so I have definitely a different view of this as to most experts in city planning, that actually density does not cause more traffic. What does cause more traffic is what my opponent has proposed, which is having more people live on the outside skirts of the county, in which they will have to take an automobile to drive into our county, bringing more and more cars from outside the county into our city that you're going to have to sit behind in the red light. Now, what happens though when you do density, and again, I want to be very, very clear here, because it's a missing middle, as Mr. Fisher here has brought up, which I am fully in support of, is density. Missing middle is the kind of housing, the missing middle kind of housing that's in between really dense student housing, super large towers like you see downtown, and the single family homes. We are missing what's in the middle there, which are those duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, cottage courts, small apartment buildings, things like that don't actually really change the culture of a community, yet allow more people to live there in a really soft density kind of way. And the reason you can do it in those ways too is because when you do that, we already have the infrastructure in those areas. You don't have to pay to build more roads. You don't have to pay to build more sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, public transit system, bus stops, because they already exist there. And they're able to help pick up the extra people who live there, because people can walk to their jobs or walk to the grocery store or take the bus because the bus already runs through there. We really need to have a mayor who has a strong understanding of land use and city planning here. And that trusts the staff who does these things and who has been giving us studies over and over again that talk about we need to have density to be able to solve this housing crisis and be able to plan for the inevitable growth that is coming in the Athens area that we're already seeing. If we don't plan for it, y'all, that's when things get really bad. That's when you start getting the sprawl, where you end up having hundreds of more cars.
thank you so much, Mr. Denson. I don't know if this audience has any artists and musicians in here. Where are you? This question is for you, on your behalf. Having been a musician and artist here in Athens since the late 80s, obviously the downtown music and art scene is near and dear to my heart. Two things I often hear directly affect us as musicians and artists is parking and parking costs, along with the growing concerns of downtown safety. How do you plan to address these concerns?
This is starting with me, I think.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay, let me make sure. Yeah, appreciate that question. I mean, again, like I said in my opening statement, I moved here to Athens because I was running a cooperative record label in college with friends down in Florida. And I'd fallen in love with Athens, and I wanted a different community that had a great music scene, and that's what brought me here. And I think that's what brings tons of people here, tons of tourists, tons of notoriety. But we can't take that for advantage. That can disappear and shrivel up. And it's already starting to happen again because Athens is becoming so unaffordable. The reason that there was so many great artists and musicians here for so long is because Athens was a cheap place to live. You could work a part-time job, practice with your band or make your art and go to art shows, present, go to shows at nighttime and stuff like that. And it makes it such a great community. But when you start becoming unaffordable, you start to lose that. So one of the things specifically on this, though, I want to tackle is by creating an entertainment district downtown that will allow open containers, just like they've done in Commerce, like they've done in Monroe, Winder, of course in Savannah, which probably a lot of people have traveled down there and be able to experience. But what we do is have municipal cups that the businesses would have to buy from the county, and that money would be able to go into a fund that would help fund downtown public safety, downtown events to make events like AthFest and Hot Corner, all these things bigger and better, and be able to just really support the artists and the musicians who performed it. They get paid a real living wage. That can help pay for us to have people who patrol through downtown and offer resources and make sure that those who are unhoused are getting the resources that they need. Helping people who are coming into town who might be lost find where they're trying to go, like they've done in Asheville to have these downtown ambassadors that go through the town. We can be funding so many downtown improvements and really turn downtown back into an area that is family focused, not just student focused, not just drinking focused, that we can all be able to experience and enjoy.
Mr. Fisher?
Thank you. And I think one of the things without those questions, I think that question was asked on Saturday. Same thing when it comes to that musicians and even people who work on part-time. I think it's important that, especially for the musicians, and I said this, if you playing in a venue and you're a good musician, you should get paid accordingly to your music that you bring to that particular venue. And the people that's in that venue, you need to negotiate that with that particular promoter. Say, hey, you packing the house, but you're only paying me so much money to get things done. I think what's important when we start looking at downtown and what that look, one thing I want to do also is we got to engage our small businesses downtown too. They got to be a part of it when we talk about doing the entertainment district and things like that. We got to make sure that they buy into that. Because a lot of times, again, as government, we go in thinking that this is what we're going to do, but you don't have those conversations with those small businesses downtown. So if we don't engage them and talk about some of the stuff that we want to do, there's a failed plan. Again, we can talk about these things. Again, you got to have conversations first, and you got to have a plan. And I think it's important. I understand about our future land use and we talk about all the density and stuff, but again, when we talk about trying to stick families in the downtown and single family homes and the colleges and stuff, same thing, those property taxes are gonna go up. So for me, it's important that we engage that downtown community and we need to make it more family friendly. I'm looking forward to the things that really happen this summer in this community, all the events that we have, and I attend all those events and bring resources into this community. But that's how we build our community, by having meaningful conversation. My opponent had mentioned that as mayor, regardless sometimes what you all think is going to be his agenda. And that's not how I'm going to operate. I'm going to operate on the agenda of the people that elected me to make sure that I'm hearing your voices, hearing what we need to have done, and make sure we work together to get things done.
Thank you so much.
All right, now this fourth question has layers. So bear with me as we read through it. If you need me to repeat it, I will be happy to do so. How will you bring accountability to Athens given our tax revenue has doubled in the past 10 years? More specifically in these areas: 1, wrongful arrests by our policemen; 2, funding of our nonprofits where return our investments into our nonprofits. So just how would you facilitate nonprofit relations in Athens-Clarke County? And then 3rd, business and development such as Caterpillar have made promises to our community, many of which have not been fulfilled.
Oh.
And Mr. Fisher. Here, let me repeat it. Just
I think I got them.
Okay.
I think the first thing that I want to get is our nonprofit community, and they do a great job. We got some nonprofits that got some boots on the ground and doing the yeoman's job. But I think us, and again, one thing I've heard is accountability. And we have not done a very good job of accountability with some of our nonprofits. One thing is I'm gonna ask and I'm tell our staff, HCD, that when we give money to nonprofits, at least quarter, they need to come in and do some type of reporting. You know, what's your impact? You know, what have you done? You know, how many people are you serving? And we don't do enough of that. You said, what was it?
So the first one was wrongful arrest by a policeman, and then the third one was business and development, such as Caterpillar. How are they going to keep their promises, and how are we all going to work with them to keep their promises?
And with wrongful arrest, that's why we have Peace Corps. And Peace Corps is still in my mind, and I'm an ex-officio, so I go to those meetings, but I think they're still learning their way. One thing that, you know, when that was put together was for citizens to make complaints about if our officers, our sheriff department, our probation, they're doing things that really violate people's civil rights. They go to our Peace Corps to try to get those things resolved. And that's, you know, I'll continue to support that. And with Caterpillar, again, I do know this. Some of the conversations I've had with our business leaders, though, they hire people, but then within 3 to 6 months, they quit. Now, and one thing I asked though, because sometimes the industry, and I worked in the private industry years ago, sometimes industry though, because our culture is changing, have your industry changed with those young people that's coming to your facility? So you need to take a look at that. But they tell me, we get them trained, get them here, then they leave. So those soft skills, we got to work on those and work on those for our children. So those things are important, but Caterpillar, hold them accountable. Same thing with biases. When they come in here, we need to hold them accountable when they have people in our community.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dubson, do you need to repeat it?
I think
You took notes.
I'm trying to squeeze in a lot here. I also want to say one thing that neither one of us touched on here in the previous question was the parking thing. And that's a big problem. And we talked about not talking to businesses. My opponent here in that commission voted to raise parking meter costs to $3 an hour for downtown. And without coming up with a solution for all of the wait staff and the people who work in those businesses, I've heard so much about saying that they are getting paid $2.15 an hour to be a waiter, plus tips, and have to pay $3 an hour and feed a meter the whole time. And also have to use this new app. I don't know how many of y'all have tried to use that app yet, but good luck. So I think that needs to be revisited. When we talk about our nonprofits, yeah, we need to make sure they're more effective. We definitely need to be doing that and working more closely together. I started on the vision committee for a number of years that focused on those things. And I think we need to make sure we have good people signing up for the vision committee so they can keep doing that. When it comes to the reporting, those nonprofits have to report all the time. How do I know? Because I worked for an organization for a while in which I had to write monthly reports that we had to issue to HCD. It's happening every single month. Now it's up to commissioners and the mayor and everybody to be reading those reports. They know what's going on. Those reports are being filed. And if they're not, those nonprofits get dinged and can lose that funding, which has happened. Caterpillar. Yes, when it comes to economic development, again, like I said before, we need to make sure that when we're giving those tax breaks and doing those negotiations, that we are getting the community benefits this community deserves if we're giving any kind of tax breaks to them. And that's something that needs to really be focused on. And I've had some similar concerns around Caterpillar. Last, definitely public safety and what's happened there. And as I've said before, we have a broken public safety system, not just here in Athens, but in the United States. It is systematically and systemically has focuses and preys on Black and brown people and creates so many injustices. And it's not just put on the backs of our public safety officials. That's not it. Again, it's a systemic thing. When we have so much poverty going on, we have resources not being filled. That's how we get.
We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so we are going to move into our lightning round questions, and we do appreciate the audience participation in submitting those questions. We will conclude with this portion. Each candidate will have 45 seconds to address each of our 4 questions. And just to revisit our rules of engagement, please refrain from crosstalk and interruptions. Y'all have been fantastic so far. Let's keep it going. And then rebuttals will only be allowed if another candidate addresses you directly. Then you will have 30 seconds for rebuttal. So rebuttals will be allowed only if y'all address each other, and that will be a 30-second rebuttals.
So now we're moving to question number 1, Athens. Gentlemen, what is one uncomfortable truth Athens needs to confront? We will start with you, Mr. Fisher.
There's two for me. There's a racial component in this community that nobody wants to talk about, and there's a wealth component that sometimes we don't want to talk about. And one thing, we talk about hard conversations, especially when it comes to race, nobody want to talk about it. But we need to have those conversations. And we got two Athens. Let's don't get it twisted. We got two Athens in this community, and it's been like that since I've lived here. So we got to have those conversations. Why we can't sometimes sit down and just have a regular conversation. We don't always have to agree, but at the same time, let's talk about those things and see, like in the African community, in our Hispanic community, in our white community, why things are the way that they are. But I think the race component and our wealth component.
Thank you so much. Mr. Denson.
I have to agree, definitely. Racism and classism, especially wealth classism. And it's in so much of our history. Again, we talk about our zoning and land use. It's intentional that we have all these single family neighborhoods like Homewood Hills, Forest Heights, 5 Points, Normaltown. Yeah, and those are all zoned single family. Yet when you go into Hancock or East Athens, those were intentionally zoned as mixed residential, allowing and actually almost encouraging the gentrification that's been going on to happen there. And it's exactly the same thing when it comes to the classism here. We, again, want to focus so much of our economic development always from this top down. How can we give some corporations or some wealthy people a bunch of money that can sometimes trickle down? Why aren't we ever reversing?
Thank you so much, Mr. Denson.
Those 45 seconds go by very quickly. All right, so lightning round question number 2. What is one policy position you hold that may cost you politically, but you believe is right? Mr. Benson, we will start with you this time.
Heck, I guess density. Again, and the reason I stick by it is because it's proven, it's fact-based. We can look at Austin, Texas. Everybody knows housing costs have been skyrocketing so high, especially in metro areas. Yet, Austin, Texas has been able to buck the trend because they embrace density and we're able to build a lot more housing in dense ways and in neighborhoods and communities that could absorb it. And because of that, saw housing prices actually go down, bucking the trends that the rest of the nation has seen. Now, again, I want to give this. I'm not trying to make families have to go live downtown. I'm not trying to say that we're going to put student housing in the middle of normal town. Not at all. I'm talking about missing middle housing here, but making sure that we are actually embracing it.
Thank you, sir.
And putting it where it belongs.
All right, Mr. Fisher? Yes, sir. What is one policy position you hold that can cost you politically, but you believe is right?
Probably when I was trying to get the Homewood Hills development done, I thought it was a great project. We had 8 meetings. We changed that plan a lot of time, a lot. But in the end, the community did not want it. And I took a beating on that one. But I thought it was the right plan to put there because that particular shopping center is deteriorating. It was a great, and it was a by right to build, but this company wanted to come in and build it the right way. But the residents, they had final say. They didn't want it. It cost me. I got the letters and got the emails, but that was one thing that cost me.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Now we're going into kind of a critical question, if you will. What is one thing Athens must stop doing immediately? We need that to be Mr. Fisher, and we will start with you. 45 seconds.
Wow, that's a tough one. I think we need to stop making decisions, knee-jerk decisions when it comes to doing things that we need to do right by our citizens. And I think we as the 4 years that I spent there, we have made decisions where there were deals cut behind the scenes and other commissioners were not involved. And then we come up with these plans and people expect us to rubber stamp it. That won't happen in my administration because I don't cut deals. What I know, my colleagues gonna know, and the community gonna know. So things like that has caused me angst. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Denson.
Being so slow to get things done. Again, when I ran for commission, I ran for mayor, I did the same thing. I'm running with a bias towards action. Our community doesn't expect us to have to wait years and years to get a sidewalk built. or years and years to be able to move some kind of important policy forward. Yet so often, we get bogged down in trying to find excuses not to act, calling for, well, we already had 5 rounds of public comment. We got to send it back for another 5 rounds of public comment. Oh, we got 3 studies here. Let's do 2 more studies. At some point, this community expects us to get things done. That's where our local government is to be doing. And so I want us to be revisiting those policies so that we're making sure we're acting in an efficient and effective way, yet still being transparent and still involving the community.
Thank you so much.
All right, and for question number 4, this is kind of the inverse of the previous one. What is one thing Athens should be more courageous about? And we will start with you, Mr. Fisher. I'm sorry, it's Mr. Benson. I apologize.
Yeah. I think it's almost like connected to that. We need to be more courageous, and we need to have more courageous elected officials who are willing to take some chances sometimes, who are willing to move forward on things that we know and the community knows is what's best for this entire community. Yet a small handful of people who maybe have connections to elected officials push back against it, try to get it stopped. We need to make sure we're listening to the entire community, not just a very vocal few sometimes. And that's the thing that I saw definitely as when I was on the commission before, and something that I still see that happens now. A lot of times there's obvious things that make sense for us to move forward on, yet for some reason they get caught up and don't happen because we have elected officials who lack the courage.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Yes, sir. Well, back to my script. All right, what is one thing Athens should be more courageous about?
We should be more courageous about our accountability, our transparency, and our ethics. A lot of times, when I look around at some of the stuff that we do, and we don't involve our community, and that's when things fall flat on their face. We have to be a government that's accountable to our residents, and we have done that. I said this publicly. We have failed you guys. And it didn't just start with the last 4 years. This has been going on for years. We got to do better. So that's one of the things I feel like that we got to do and take responsibility for those things.
Thank you so much. Y'all, let's give a round of applause for our candidates. Every time seconds go with things of passion. So, gentlemen, thank you for that. But at this time, we will have our candidate closing statements. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes each, and we will start in reverse order from our opening statements. So, Mr. Fisher, we will start with you, and then we'll go to Mr. Jensen. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you again. Thank you, Delta, and the Virginia League for putting this thing on. And, I'm just so excited to have this opportunity to be your next mayor. I bring leadership skills. I know what it's like to connect the dots. I know what it's like to bring this community together. That's the type of mayor you all going to be. For too long, the culture in City Hall has always been business as usual. As your next mayor, it's not going to be business as usual. It's going to be business about the people. And that's what I would bring to the table for all of you. When I moved here 38 years ago, and my intention was not to stay there. I would get my master's degree and move back to South Carolina. I was born and raised in Actually, I was there today for a funeral for one of my uncles. So I rushed back to get here. But I understand, and being a civil rights baby, understand what it takes to have those lived experiences to know how to bring people together. One thing my mom taught me was people are not always going to agree with you, but you always stand on principle and make sure you get it right. And that's what I would do for you. I'll make sure I get it right. We're not always going to agree, and that's okay. And none of us are perfect. And we're not. We're human. We got families. And all of us love this community. I love this community. When I had COVID, it's been 6 weeks in the hospital. You all turned out. Y'all prayed for me. Y'all sent me cards. Y'all made videos while I lay in the hospital. So that's the type of community that I'm glad I'm proud of to be a part of. And that's what I want to bring to you. It's not going to be easy. That's why I say it's so important that we bring everybody together. I know how to connect those dots. I know how to get UG at the table. I know how to get Athens-Tech at the table. I know how to get our business community and the chamber at the table. I've done those experiments. I sit in those rooms. And I understand what it's going to take to be your next mayor. And you can either have somebody that's an activist, You can have somebody who wants to govern. I'm gonna be the man who's gonna govern. I'm not gonna have my own agenda. I'm gonna have the people's agenda. So if you vote for me on June 16th as your next mayor, I promise you I will not disappoint you. May God bless you and thank you.
Thank you, Sonny. Absolutely. Mr. Denson.
Definitely, thank you. And yeah, I also just want to thank the Deltas Junior League, the library here for hosting us in I think what me and Dexter are both hoping is our last debate. And I also want to thank Dexter and you know in the previous games we didn't make the runoff for all of us having I think such a respectful campaign and being able to be willing to engage with the community in ways like this because you all deserve this. And yeah, so nope, I am an activist. I am y'all. Not gonna lie. I think I've met a lot of y'all probably out in a protest somewhere. Or maybe knock on your door while we try to work for, you know, they get 100% Athens sustainability passed. I am proud of that because the first part of that is I act. I do. It's an important thing to me. I don't think that I don't want to have a local government that doesn't act. I don't want to have local government that just keeps showing up and doing the same thing over and over again, accepting the problems that we've accepted in this community for so many years, has accepted that we have a 27% poverty rate, has accepted that we have this racism and classism that's gone on for generations and generations. It's accepting that you know we can never be affordable. It's just too hard. I might fail. I might act. I might fail sometimes, so I'm gonna try. And I am gonna act. That is something I can guarantee I will do as a mayor. If you want a mayor who's gonna take the easy way out, don't vote for me. But if you want somebody who's gonna get things done and who's gonna spend the time working with you to find those solutions and to get those solutions passed, no matter how hard it is, to keep showing up every single day, trying and trying and trying, I'm your guy. I again like grew up very poor in a community, didn't have a lot of resources. Dropped out of college and ended up getting my bachelor's and never forget to finish. And I was ashamed of that for a long time. But one thing I realized about myself that my superpower is I'm tenacious. I keep showing up. I ran for mayor 12 years ago and I lost. But part of my speech that I said there was there's more than one way to make Athens for everyone. Winning as mayor and working for City Hall, that was one way. But there's a lot of other ways. And part of that is being an activist, part of that's being a community organizer. Part of that's going out and learning my community, meeting my neighbors and working with them every single day to make this community better. And I've said it before and I mean it. And I said it back 12 years ago and I meant it and I proved it. You can vote for me and I'm going to work for you as mayor to make this community as good as we possibly can. And if you don't vote for me, I'm still going to work to make this community the best that I can. And I'll work with you one way or the other. This doesn't come down to a vote. This comes down to my love for this community, this love for all of you.
Thank you so
And
much,
this
Mr.
changed
Denson.
on January 16th.
Thank you to our candidates for participating tonight and for sharing your vision of Athens-Clarke County. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Tonight was about more than the candidates on the stage. It was about the future of our community. You heard two distinct visions, and that's what democracy requires. Now, the responsibility belongs to all of us. Stay informed, stay involved, and most importantly, make your voice heard at the ballot box. Election day is Tuesday, June 16th.
Athens. Every gathering like this strengthens self-governance. I'm very proud of us tonight. The candidates stepped forward, they offered their vision, and we learned about their platform. But tomorrow and every day after that, it is your turn because it's your voice, it is your vote, and more importantly, it is your responsibility. But as a resource tonight, we need you to know that you can go and locate your voting precinct, learn your status. If you log into the My Voter page, which is ran by the Georgia Secretary of State Board at www.nvp.sos.ga.gov. And if you need further help, the table that is sponsored by Delta State and Theta Sorority Incorporated, we will have people that will help you log in on your phone to learn your status. Please be mindful that early voting is on Monday, June 8th, and it will end on Friday, June 12th. And as a reminder, again, we are voting on June 16th. What day? June? We all are going to be there no matter what, because you must go out and vote. Because the future in Athens isn't just in one candidate. It's with all of us here today. Yes? Absolutely. So on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the Junior League of Athens and our community partner at the Athens Regional Library System, we thank you all for coming, Athens. You all be safe and have a wonderful night.